Hello and welcome to another GigaBoots Podcast Network Castlevania Season Review. I'm your host, Dan Video Games, and with me is Bob.
I can't believe it took all season for gay sex Dracula to have gay sex.
Dr. Aggro.
Viva la gay sex Dracula?
And Chris Wolfhard.
What's French for try hard?
That's right. We have yet again reviewed a Castlevania season. For anyone who's new to this, we've done all of them as a group, I believe, since 2. One was a solo job for me. And, sorry, that's confusing. The original series, 2, and the original series, 1, because these are 2 different series. This one is created by Bradley Clive. Thank you. Or Clive Bradley.
Yeah, they had to take the name of the Sex Pest off it.
They sure did.
They still write it exactly like he does, though.
I find it absolutely hilarious that it's like they canceled it right after the season with the Alucard thing, just the season-long build-up to that. And I'm like, dude, you just wrote I did it as a fucking plot line. Anyway, hey, we're here to talk about these episodes. If you've never joined us for a Spoilercast and review before, what we do is we say a couple sentences at the beginning each, and then we make a natural sound to communicate how we feel about the season overall. After we're each done doing that, we're then going to come in with some praises, some criticisms, some musings, some questions, and then at the end, we're going to give our summary reviews and give it a score out of 1 to 10. So let's get started. We're going to start with Dr. Aggro.
Castlevania Nocturne Season 2 went on for a while, and then it ended.
Bob.
Boo! Get new material!
The only Netflix show written by a bird. Chris Wolfhard.
This season feels very reactionary to criticism, and in some ways it improved it, in some ways it really didn't.
For people who remember my reviews of prior seasons, you may be shocked to hear mine of this. This is the most colored by numbers fucking thing I've ever watched on Netflix.
You know what I liked about Isaac in seasons 3 and 4, the original?
Sure, yeah. What?
He wasn't a glib cunt like every single fucking other character in this series. Every single one.
It's nice when you have a center character that isn't that thing we keep doing with every character.
Yes.
Guess what? You don't beat the Marvel allegations just because they say fuck. Like, you don't beat we're saying Whedon-esque quips because they also have a curse word in them. That's not how that shit works.
What if we whisper it? Does that fix it?
Yeah, that makes everything better.
What if we have the main character in a display that is completely fucking unearned go Super Saiyan in the last 2 episodes in a way that is completely unlike anything else in the entire series, and also that just feels desperate and sad?
But here's the thing, it is like something that happened elsewhere in the series, in that he went Super Saiyan near the end of the first season.
Yeah, so they just redid it again.
It was time to do that again.
Are we watching Bleach?
This really is the repeat season. When we finished that first season, I said the most frustrating thing is that we're going to have to move on to a season whose whole point is to have the giant battle that should have happened now happen 8 episodes from now.
Mm-hmm.
And that really is what I watched. One of the things... I'm pretty sure it's in the recording, but I know I said it around the time it came out, that I liked is that Drolta was murdered at the end of the first season. So what do? They bring her back.
Yeah, it was in the first episode.
I cannot express how much that deflated me.
Yeah, no, I watched Dan just crumple.
It was so great, too, because Bathory looks at the abbot and she's like, can you use your bullshit to bring her back? And he's like, no. She's like, do it. Like, okay, we're just not going to care. Oh, all right, this is fantastic.
I was really, really hoping that they'd put her in the machine and it would do nothing.
And then here's why that would have been great. If the machine backfired or did nothing, that would have given Erzsébet any depth. It would have changed her as a character from the prior season. It would have been interesting at all.
This season has no new characters at all, which seems crazy. The only new one is the Ice Shade, and she doesn't get a character arc. She's just there for like 5 scenes, maybe.
The Revolutionary General is a really deep character. She is that Castlevania monster I know, and she sits around and eventually does a battle. It's real cool.
It's not. That battle is awful. I hate it.
Me
goddamn
too.
much.
I honestly, like, you can ask Bob. I was pretty inconsolable. The battle ends and I'm like, let's just recap what happened.
I wish that battle meant something or took place somewhere.
Yeah, it'd be really nice if this big ass, like, elongated climactic struggle had anything to do with anything we had set up in this or the last season, instead of just, hey, let's go storm Paris with like 30 guys.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like this season is a letdown in almost every single axis that it exists on.
It certainly looks much better than the last season. That's a plus.
See, and here's the thing.
Last season had like $3.
I would appreciate that if every time they did an action sequence, it didn't feel the most perfunctory and least interestingly motivated one possible.
It is always just fighting goons.
Yeah, that's what I mean about reactionary. Like, so much of the action feels like they directly looked at the criticisms and just, well, we'll throw in more action. I'm like, well, it doesn't, I don't care if it doesn't really mean anything.
And then they fuck is like what you wrote into the script, but for action. Like, it's just like,
Yeah, kinda, yeah.
here's the time of the episode, they have sex. Speaking of which, man, it did take a whole season for gay sex to have gay sex.
Yeah, and there's less nudity in this season than any others, weirdly.
Yeah.
I wish Olrox had mattered at all. He just feels completely
yeah.
perfunctory,
It's
despite being a major character in the last season. Like, it feels like he doesn't even get an arc or anything. It's like he does the thing he was obviously always going to do and betray the primary villain to help the good guys for a little bit.
Yeah, and it's even worse because, like, I think it's objectively the case that Olrox is a more interesting, like, being than Erzsébet could be. They could have written much more there, but they just didn't. They're like, what? His backstory is fully fleshed out. He's completely developed as a character. He's gay. And I'm like, no, you need to add depth to these characters.
Yes.
Erzsébet needs to have a lot more to her character than what she is. Olrox needs to have a lot more to his character than he is.
He has more than a lot of characters in this, sadly.
He does, but like, even if you're not going to do Olrox as his own character, they also forgot to do the thing where he's a big part of Richter's arc that he's supposed to be having.
Yeah, Richter kind of just is like, I didn't forget you at the end, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's rancid. It's every single axis on which you can track a plot line or theme or thread or vector of the essence of this show. It is so disappointing this season. And I'm coming off of being pretty fucking, I might be the biggest proponent of last season. And I'm just sitting here like, you did absolutely everything to disappoint me.
Yeah, the last season should have just had 4 more episodes and condensed everything in this season into those 4 episodes. Because you didn't have enough for 8.
Then we wouldn't have to invent 2 more souls for Erzsébet to absorb from Sekhmet. We wouldn't have to, like, manifest the MacGuffins that we need to go gather and then battle her MacGuffins with. We could have had a logical build-up to a more interesting battle of a scale that would have suited it.
You could probably, like, the whole Maria arc could have been done in the end of last season, where it probably should have, instead of weirdly like taping on, then she goes back and kills him.
Well, she had to summon an evil shade that I guess is Shaft.
They called that thing Mephistopheles, which I don't know if she summoned it.
They wouldn't use the name Shaft in that's too weird.
Well, like they called him a bunch of stuff. At one point, they refer to him as Mephistopheles. They call him Old Man Coyote. They call him the devil.
Yeah, so
and it's like, Yeah, the conclusion of the Marie stuff doesn't even have a whole episode to it.
Yeah,
it definitely is about 20 minutes at absolute most.
Right. It's so weird to be like they frustratingly pretend that her killing that guy is horrible and bad and she can never recover from it. And then she recovers from it in like 20 seconds at the beginning of the next episode. It's like, why'd you even do this?
They're like, Maria, summoning badass dragons through dark portals is bad magic. You need to summon them through golden portals, which is good Avengers magic.
A lot of stuff in this season, it feels like we got to get some of that anime sauce. We got to use some anime character beats and genre conventions. And it's like, okay, but you landed at sub Flame of Rekka. Like you're not hitting at the big current like shonen things. You're like coming in at like below C tier. Like you realize that like a character getting a big cool power up like that should be the resolution of their arc where they have like an epiphany and undergo character development. But Richter didn't do that, and neither did Maria.
Yeah, it just happens.
And the question is, did that really happen for Annette either? Because Annette has the biggest, most salient one of those, but it doesn't tap into any core character evolution or emotional epiphany.
No, not really. I feel like Annette is like largely static, and every time Annette's on screen, I'm like, you should have just made a completely original thing set in like the Caribbean about colonizer vampires. Every single time Annette talks about where she came from and the bad shit happening in the French Caribbean, I'm like, that's a better show than what we're watching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very much. And her getting sidelined for the whole terrible final battle was awful.
It was absolutely rancid. She's the only
super
character.
Fucking weird.
She's the only character they had enough locations and elements to this arc for her, the training arc, right? That should have built up to something, and then she gets sidelined.
Well, she does. She becomes the weird MacGuffin. You need to protect her, and it's
and
like
that's
we need the goddess to ride her body so she can also not be in this fight. Just stand there like Zelda in the final fight and just hold the enemy's power back while you do all the cool shit, Richter.
I actually would have laughed really hard if they literally made a circle of fire and Richter was inside of it and she was outside of it.
This is so cinema sensy, but it bothered me so bad, so I have to say it.
Okay.
You know what was cool in the first 4 seasons, and even in the last season?
What?
This whole series has had this thing of like, no, human beings can't have a fucking punch out with vampires. A vampire will punch through their torso and rip out their fucking spine. A vampire hunter is agile and has all these tactics and weapons that deal catastrophic damage because they have to, because that's the only thing that can kill a vampire. In fucking season 2 of the original series, Dracula softball punching Trevor twice, like, eradicates him. It, like, destroys his ribs and knocks him out. And he's, like, crippled with self-doubt about whether he really wants to be killing these people at all. And his, like, baby touches annihilate Trevor. But in here, Richter's like having a fucking fist fight with the vampire god. That isn't what is cool about the action in this series. That wasn't the fucking problem.
But Richter is the most powerful Belmont.
He covered himself in ice, so it's fine. I know how thermodynamics work.
And you do all this shit, you make him go Super Saiyan, and he doesn't even do Grand Cross.
Yeah, that...
Well,
Instead, he just does a big laser sword that I don't even think... Like, why?
Oh my
why
God,
did he have
the
the
laser
moonlight
sword.
blade?
It looks like a claim
Why did he have the
Solias.
moonlight blade?
Yeah, it literally looks like they're doing a weird claim Solias-like thing, and I'm like, but that wasn't made of ice, and where are the glowing crosses that explode out of it? Hello?
Because like they were saying, it's more like the moonlight blade.
Exactly. For just a moment, I'm like, oh, hell yeah, it's the Moonlight Greatsword. And then I realize, oh my God, this is the end of that Dragon Ball Super arc with Trunks' timeline. Where he just gets a big blue sword for no fucking reason.
Oh, that's cool.
So, Dan, you're much better at this kind of thing than me.
Sure.
Were there any fucking Castlevania songs in this?
Like always, it had that one.
Yeah, it did. They did the one, and the weirdest part is I'm not positive that wasn't a mix mostly used last season. I think it's just a different version that better sinks to the battle this time.
Castlevania has so many great songs. You couldn't bring out more of them for these for your 800 action scenes.
Yeah, no, it drives me crazy. They've been doing this dumb thing of like we get one Castlevania song per season. The whole time it's like you need to up the ante. You need to change anything. Like,
yeah, guess what? Rondo of Blood was the first one that was on fucking CD and had a CD soundtrack and is kind of notable for having a kick-ass soundtrack. You couldn't go to Konami and be like, hey, let us use some of those.
It's okay. We got David Wise. Gimmick 2 soundtrack.mp3.
oh.
Yeah. And while all of these are super valid complaints, all of them are, as I said, various vectors to track across the season and be really upset by or disappointed by. I think the largest thing is this show is still, especially now more than ever, a perfunctory fight scene somewhere towards the end of the episode sometimes, and a lot of talking. And the talking doesn't do shit. So, like, it feels like ever since the beginning of Castlevania Netflix, episode 1, they're like, who are the real monsters? And I'm like, yeah, people. Okay, cool. And it didn't feel like the other seasons nailed that like into your skull over and over. This season, that is the only theme because they're like, oh, you think souls separate us? We can bring a person back that allegedly doesn't have a soul. Isn't that interesting? And I'm like, no. Are you going to do anything more with that though? They're like, no. I just feel like there wasn't an interesting focus to this season for a single character in it. Maria's arc is you need to summon the big dragon through the golden portal instead of the dark portal. That's it. I don't know what was anyone else's arc, huh? Mizrak being upset because that dick is so good he can't quit it, but also God is upset. That isn't even novel to this season. And then the conclusion is, well, whatever. He fought on the side of good. We're all right.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I don't know what was the core thing for anyone in the season other than Mizrak and Ulrax's incredibly forecast thing.
Yeah, everything this season feels super forecast and perfunctory and just, it's going to happen from the beginning. And like I said, they have no new anything in it. Like, we have no new characters. The old characters that have been here for a while have nothing new going on. Like, what is the point of the season? I'm not sure.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is Annette is haunted by ghosts.
And I don't even... Was that in the last season? It might have been.
No.
Okay.
No, not that I recall. And she just doesn't talk about it for an episode, so that way they can push the conversation about it off a little while.
Uh-huh. Oh, God, I need to mention the scene that they have the main cast show up and watch the beheadings in France, and they're like, I don't know about this. This doesn't seem right. And I was just like, no, incorrect. What are you doing, show? You should have removed this scene before release.
Yeah, that kind of aged poorly between the times. I'm surely between... This is also a problem with completely changing them clearly not wanting to just use Dracula constantly, which I understand. They already did Symphony, basically. They did all of Symphony's plot beats in the first series.
Mm-hmm.
But then they bring Alucard back, so they have to give him something. So he's just like weird and distant, and he's like, oh, people don't change. It's always the same thing over and over. And then he learns to maybe care again, which he also did like twice in the original series.
As I lined up to do the Spoilercast, I legitimately tried for hours to think of a part of this I liked. Just liked. Like, oh, this moment was really neat. And unlike every other season, I can't think of one.
That thing where Juice filled his sleeves with ice daggers and then whipped them at Terra, that was cool.
That was cool.
Pretty cool.
There were these little cool moments I liked. There was really good visual design in a lot of things, especially involving Annette and like all the mysticism and the magic on her end.
Mm-hmm.
I thought her being possessed by Sekhmet looked really cool. Like, that design was really cool. I wish it had done something.
Yeah, that would have been neat.
Mm-hmm.
But like, the series had this weird thing, like, where it's like, I understand what is happening, but I don't really get it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you're telling me that this is doing this, but I don't really know why. Like, it isn't apparent why things are happening in this way.
Yeah.
Like, why is Sekhmet just standing back and doing something?
Yeah, we'd keep cutting to locations and characters in what feels like a random order, and events continue to happen, but none of them feel connected. There's no momentum. You're just ticking boxes until the runtime's done.
Yeah.
I don't even, like, what was the point of that fight that Annette was having in the spirit world while Sekhmet was in her body?
So we could have another fight going on.
So she couldn't die, and also so she could be in a fight that totally is important and matters.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why that entire segment was there. Like, she doesn't defeat the thing and then retake her body.
No.
That isn't what happens. That feels like what is going to happen.
Yes.
And then she would reclaim her body and use Sekhmet's power to fight the villain.
Here, Sekhmet, I have a functioning brain. Let me join the battle.
Oh, why didn't I do that?
It's so
damn.
It's so weird to make Annette such a bigger part of this, such a more relevant character with a really cool backstory, and then sideline her the last 4 episodes.
Yes. Or the last, 2.
While pretending that she's the most important character still.
Yes.
Like, it's such a weird balancing act they did there.
They're like, she's the key to everything. And then apparently the key is standing near the battle and giving bitchy stares. It's like, oh man, you're really cutting into her with that look. Oh, she's still whipping her ass.
It's very important we focus on how she makes Richter feel. A thing that is important and that I am invested in.
That's cool. I'm happy for you.
They're in love because she's named after the same character that he marries in the games.
Yeah, that's sure a relationship that has no fucking chemistry at all.
Hey, they drew them blushing a few times. Done. Chemistry, incredible.
Solved. Yeah.
If you like the romance in this, you don't get to talk shit about Attack of the Clones anymore.
These dots exist. I don't know if they deserve to be connected. I could see Richter talking about how he hates sand.
Like, Richter has that breakdown in the end when it looks like she's gonna die, and I'm like, you didn't earn this. Like, you could have. Like, you had them fucking traveling for 6 episodes. You could have had them, form some kind of deeper connection. But no, we needed more fight scenes. Fight scenes where Richter will screw up in some small way, and then that will be what we think is a character arc. He'll be a little too arrogant. What wasn't his arc in the last thing that he was a coward? Like, he kept freezing up, and then he got the magic powers.
That is
became
part of
a cool
it.
guy.
That is part of it. Yeah.
Like, it's so. You could have bought this series fucking writing from the Unity asset store.
It's truly bad. It's truly
You buy the
bad.
contrivance pack.
God, that scene where he screws up and let the vampire get away is so poorly sold. Like, they boast him and Annette just decide not to chase him.
They're like,
that's what it comes off as.
He turned into a bat and he got away. They say as he's right in front of them, and they're specifically not even chasing. It's like, you have projectiles, motherfuckers. I know you.
Yeah, your main thing is the whip. He is in whipping range. What are you doing?
Yeah, they, much like everything else in this, it's really not earned.
Yeah.
That moment they wrote, he got away.
Right.
So what you see is the character stand there looking at him and go, he got away. I love you, wife, was an iconic moment in the final episode.
So, in and amongst the idea that nobody has a discernible or sensible arc, I love the notion that Maria has an anti-arc, like a flat arc, where the moment Juiced is like, no, you shouldn't kill stupid old men because reasons, she's like, no, reasons are why I should kill stupid old men, and then wastes that guy. It's so good. She wakes up 20 minutes later like, all right, that got a little out of hand. I'm going to have some tea, I'm going to center myself, and everything's going to be fine.
And then she runs into her mom, who's like, remember yesterday when I said killing wasn't base? Yes, mother. I changed my mind. Killing is base. Good job. Yeah, I'm not sure how this podcast network's endeavors look from the outside, but I assure you, I did not expect this when I wrote on the schedule. Review Castlevania Nocturne Season 2. This isn't the tone I was expecting at all.
Nah.
Nope.
I knew something was up because I had not heard a single positive
That was
thing
concerning.
about this season. Not
That was
from
concerning.
anyone.
I
haven't
did,
even-
but
I've
now I'm realizing it's like, oh, you just like it because it's really meat-headed and has Richter go Super Saiyan and do a big punch.
I hadn't heard anyone say much of anything about this season. Chris, I think before we hit record, you were saying they renewed this for another season. Is that right?
No. Last time they renewed it
okay.
in a week. They haven't renewed this one at all.
Yeah,
but,
I was gonna say
but I
that
don't
makes sense.
remember how long it was before they announced that, like, they were doing Nocturne, because this was a different series than the original. So presumably, assuming they don't do a season 3, which it kind of feels like they left a sequel thread for.
Yeah, they definitely feel like they're
At the
going
end of
to
this,
season 3.
like specifically a Nocturne season 3, and I'm like, we don't need that. We don't need that. We do not need yet another Netflix series where you have 2 parallel storylines going on.
Right. I'm like could the things you left dangling make a fascinating and interesting series? They absolutely could. Not with your writing team.
Yeah,
No.
and that's the problem. That's when we were talking about how cool it would have been to set a series in the Caribbean dealing with this lore and this tragedy, political tragedy. These
no,
people
not these
writing
guys.
that, yeah,
No.
that would have been even more upsetting, possibly.
You want to know how bad they fucked up this setting?
Yeah.
So here's something they don't explain to you about the setting they picked specifically for this, and I'm so mad about it.
I knew you would be.
The region they're in is called the Vendée. During the French Revolution, when they were, like ganking rich people left and right and saying, we're not going to be Catholic anymore, the Vendée was a region that went, okay, but we've got a clutch of lords that we actually like because they do their jobs, and also we really like being Catholic. So they told the revolution to kick rocks, which is why they sent the National Guard out there, the National Army, to go suppress the counter-revolutionaries. And there was this, I'm talking in the middle of the French Revolution, there was a horrible slaughter and pogrom out there. So framing that counter-revolutionary idea as, oh wait, no, it's a vampire army, should have been really interesting.
Yeah, no, you're describing it as like, man, that has a lot of political intrigue.
Yeah,
what
that's
they
an idea
wrote.
with legs.
Yeah,
Instead, we've got 10 guys in an alley with someone who I think is supposed to be Robespierre holding a sword on the front lines. Fuck off.
like, I don't know if there's a lot of things in this, like, this feels like the most contradictory season of the whole show, where it's like, somebody told them, hey, you need some more fucking action in this. And they just kind of crowbarred it in.
Well, a lot of the problem here is that the action feels completely in service of nothing. Like there is a version, like Agro's talking about, this conflict is really interesting to put vampires into. That could be really intriguing. Instead, we basically get an Avengers battle for every battle in this entire show. It's so disjointed, especially the final major battle. Like at the grand scale, it feels like an animated show that was filmed on a green screen. That's how bad it is. It's like we Avengers blue screen the whole battle. Don't worry, we'll get it in post.
Oh my god, that last shot with the dragon and they're doing the beam battle. And like Juiced just like looks left and adds his fire to the dragon fire. I'm flashing back to him telling Maria, no, your powers are dangerous. We don't understand where they come from.
Meanwhile, I'm just
off,
like,
old man.
since when does all the magic in the show just make the family Kamehameha?
Yeah, that was like, you didn't earn this. Once again, you didn't earn what you're doing right now.
No, we had like 10 minutes of Juice talking to Maria. That's enough. That's enough.
That's enough.
Did they ever have Maria use the fucking turtle? She uses the birds and she uses the cardinal and the tiger and the dragon.
He's too goofy. We can't.
I think Genbu might have been a tiny, cute turtle in the first season.
Oh, maybe.
I would honestly, everybody doing a video game adaptation, please listen to me carefully. I would rather you not include something than include a wink to it. And when I go, where was that cool thing? You go, oh, we did. We nodded to it with this thing that isn't like it at all.
Yeah, okay. Since we're talking about video game adaptation in general, it feels insane that now we're getting adaptations more and more closer to their origin material, and people like that more and more. And Castlevania has stayed the exact same note since, a decade ago when it started.
But it feels like it's actually regressed since then because it doesn't have an interesting thing it's doing with any of these characters or any sort of humanization. Mm-hmm. You know, there's no drama, there's no horrors of real life. This really is meathead shonen derogatory.
Yes.
Absolutely derogatory. Like, it lost the only layer it did have compared to its contemporaries. In 8 years, we've come so far.
Yeah, I'm not the big, like, we have podcasts about them. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of even the first series.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, Dracula, I thought, was really well executed with his inner conflict and all of that. Isaac was so cool. He is a great character with a great arc.
Yeah, Isaac is so much more interesting than anything in this show.
Yeah, I mean, this show, like, just real quick, and then I'll let Chris go on. The fucking demon machine is a metaphor for how less interesting of the same mechanic this show can have compared to the prior series.
Yeah, he just has his microwave oven that does Isaac did.
It's my demon easy bake oven. I put it on the tray.
I rolled my eyes and groaned aloud to no one when that dude is like, I thought I'd use the weapons of hell to serve heaven. I just went,
Yeah.
Like, if nothing else, if you do more of this, for the love of God, just like, either do your everybody's a glib asshole and there's lots of sex and cursing shit, or do your anime shonen shit. Don't try to combine them to one. These are not two tastes that taste great together.
Because it doesn't feel like they've actually combined them at all. It feels more like they had a tray full of 20 glasses for drinks for people and then dropped 16 of them to put 4 more on. like
in the last episode when like the Sakuga turns on and Richter gets up and I'm like, okay, what happened to make him meaningfully more powerful?
He's
okay. I guess now his touch can eradicate her. Why?
It looks cool.
I audibly went, that shouldn't be happening, when he, like, test of strength grappled her. And I'm like, that isn't what was cool. You don't even understand the appeal of your own sense of action in your series anymore. Like, I didn't need to see Richter have a punch-up with the vampire god. That wasn't what was cool about your action. That's not even how Castlevania, the actual games, work. A Belmont can take like 5 hits, guys.
So, I feel like we need to start wrapping this.
Yeah.
Let's get our last comments out. I've done more than my fair share of talking. Yeah, so I'm good. Does anyone else?
There is genuinely a lot of really good-looking animation in this series. So, like, look up a clip compilation or something of it. You will get all of the value therein.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait until somebody makes the action scene compilation with actual Castlevania music over it.
Yeah, they probably even put sound effects in more realistically. I think it's kind of funny that the audio quality in the show has not improved at all in the last 8 years, too.
If anything, I would say this is worse than prior seasons.
It's just a problem that all of them have had, which I don't feel like I see in basically any other animated show I watch. Of nothing feels like it's a place. Like, they're horrified to get extra actors in to fill in like generic dialogue for big crowd scenes. So everything just feels like empty.
Everyone was quiet back then.
Yeah, everyone's just silent.
Listen, that's why they all talk like this. I'm gonna do fitness videos in that voice.
That's just something that's bugged me the whole time. So it's nothing particularly bad about this season. I'm kind of amazed it's persisted in the same way this long. And I feel like we've covered everything else in the season because nothing's in the season. Like, that's the problem. That's the main thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, certainly not enough to justify this being a second season and not 2 to 4 more episodes of the previous season.
Mm-hmm. I was really upset that she untransformed from cat lady monster.
Here's about, yeah.
It was like, I thought we were just going to be like that for this whole
season. But instead, you got to get a second piece of the soul to do that again. What? How does that?
Yeah, I don't know.
God, that's something else this series fumbles is the notion of Sekhmet being expressed as a triune goddess and the different facets of divinities from cultures like that. And it's like it's there. You can read it. We don't really do anything with it.
Yeah, I was also upset with, oh man, they're actually bringing in all this Egyptian mythology stuff, but for some reason they're afraid to have anything except vampires existing and then generic night creatures that are just summoned by this machine. Like, it's just so lame. Like, you could have all these different creatures that come out, like the Ice Shade, have an origin, and instead you just have a machine that does it.
I have a quick question.
What's up?
Did they reference the 3 pieces of the soul in the first season at all? Because I feel like they just had the soul of Sekhmet, right? In season 1 of Nocturne, I swear this is it, she's going to get it, and then it's going to be hell on earth. And then she gets it. And this isn't how I viewed the show. It's only now that we're talking about it that I'm just like, did someone explain to them, like, Egyptian mythology with the whole triune soul thing? And then they just went, oh, that's great. We needed anything for this season. Here we go. 2 more MacGuffins. Yes, God, we're awesome. We're so good at this.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. Speaking of MacGuffins, I was thinking about Juice's ring. And this is another like weird nitpicky thing that I wouldn't bring up if the series wasn't bad. But he goes to the graveyard and like lightly brushes the stone face of this emblem, and it just pops open. And I'm like, this is a squirrel could have set this off, my man. Maybe like a whole button
responding
or
to
something.
his own magic. It was responding to his magic.
Oh, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas.
Supposed to be something.
Was what?
Games? Was that ring supposed to be something?
Yeah, it's supposed to be, it's a mistranslation. Okay, so JB's bracelet is supposed to be like a thing, but it's a translation thing. I think it's supposed to be a ring, so this is supposed to be that ring from the Game Over screen in Harmony of Dissonance.
And it looks really similar.
And JB stands for Juice Belmont. The part where it gives him magic back and makes him super powerful ? Is I'm like, is that it was supposed to be a reminder. It was not.
It might have been coincidental, like he went to get it because this is his fighting ring.
Well, shit, at that point, you should have just stopped off and gotten some Jack Daniels because that's his fighting whiskey.
Honestly, it would have been way better.
It would have.
I can't go back to the war. Like, oh, he's sworn off violence. No, he always has to drink when he fights. He's sworn off liquor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I made jokes while we were watching it of they should keep the camera distance and perspective ambiguous so we don't know whether or not it's a ring or a bracelet.
Tiny thing, but why is Alucard on Richter's dick this entire? Not literally, that might have made the show good. Why is he on Richter's dick this whole season? He's like, I'm gonna need a Belmont, and I'm like, the only Belmont you ever knew, he didn't kill Dracula, you did. Like, I don't know. The magic powers don't even come from the Belmonts. It came from the fact that Trevor fucked Sifa.
I think in the interim, he met up with a bunch, and it seems like they became more competent along the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they try to sell this like, oh, the Belmonts have this inner power, and then they deliver on that by Richter going Super Saiyan. I'm like, it doesn't feel like that at all.
I'm trying to remember how Trevor fought Death. Did he do this Grand Cross in that season? I thought he had something.
I don't think they've done Grand Cross in any season. I think
they
last
did it
season
twice.
they just shot some fire.
I think near the lake in the prior season they did it.
He had like the combat cross that was made to kill God when he fought death at the end of
yes.
season
At the end
4.
of the
Then
original
I guess he
series,
did the Grand Cross there.
I think it happened in both instances, near the lake in season 1 of Nocturne, and then also at the end of the original series. So it is really weird that this time he just gets really strong punches.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he does that laser sword.
Yeah, that's a great reference to something from a FromSoft series.
Yeah.
It would have been really funny though if he just put on the bracelet, and it's like, you got the MK bracelet to remind you of Maxim Kashide.
Yeah, I was like, didn't they mention Maxim in the last season? And
I think maybe I'm crazy and I was expecting it so much, but it didn't happen. I thought he was on the bust, the wall next to the thing, because the lady, oh my god, Lydia, thank you, was a tombstone a little bit from that.
Right. Lydia's grave was there.
I kept thinking they would show some text next to this compartment that was like Maxim's name.
Right, because I could have sworn that the thing was in his past in this version, Maxim and her both died.
Yes, it's true. And you know, the whole idea of that unlocking the true ending is that he has the JV bracelet and the MK bracelet.
Right. So why did you not have the MK bracelet?
And then they get to the center of the castle to save Maxim, and or you get your fighting Jack, Daniel. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, that's really nitpicky. If the fucking rest of this,
right,
if any part of the rest of, like, I really wish something more interesting happened with Mizrak and Olrox. I wish something more interesting happened with Olrox and Richter. I wish there. It really feels like the afterthought season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They set up a bunch of stuff and then they realized, oh, this is like 2 episodes.
A bunch of stuff. Wait, no, not much stuff, actually. Whoops.
Dan, you're making me do what the show didn't, which is remember Mizrak. And I just keep thinking, like, he sucks so bad in this series because all he does is try and moral high ground the vampire he's fucking.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this series keeps in, like, every season I feel like they introduce these side characters that, like, don't go anywhere. They're like kind of just there to fill time, like the vampire lesbians from seasons 3 and 4 of the original series, where it's like they don't really have a payoff. They just kind of leave at the end when the plot resolves.
I don't want to be horrible, but I think they were more interesting than anything that happened in this season.
Yeah, at least the big butch one became Guts. Like, that's interesting. Like, what the fuck does Olrox have going on?
Yeah, and I say this as someone who wasn't the biggest fan of them in that season.
Like, I think the concept, like, I get that they want to expand Castlevania's mythos and lore beyond just like the Eurocentric imagery of a vampire. But you only do that. You need to do a season about that. Stop introducing them at the sides, like in the periphery, and then not doing anything with them. Like, Olrox is an Aztec vampire. That's fucking cool. And that's whole backstory is about the French Caribbean and vampire colonizers feeding on slaves. That's fucking cool. You either need to be more beholden to the games or less. You somehow threaded the needle perfectly to the least interesting outcome. It's funny that Alucard's a weeb. It's funny they're getting the Genya Arikado shit set up now.
It is. It's the pork chop sandwich of fucking Alucard here. They're just like, he's really getting into Asia right now.
If you motherfuckers try and do Aria, and you better, if Soma Cruz is a glib cunt, I will fucking riot.
God.
Yeah, no.
You better go find whoever wrote Isaac if you're gonna touch Soma Cruz.
Yeah, if they go modern day, one, they better not have audio anything like this. Nobody's should be doing the whisper talking in modern day. Like, that doesn't, we can pretend maybe people used to do that. This is just insane if you try and do anything like this writing in modern day.
They're just weren't as many cars, so you talked quieter.
They're at the McDonald's and they're like, oh, I would like a number 3 and a Diet Coke. Sir, your total will be 1022.
Like, there's places they can go. They can go to Bloodlines. They can go to Portrait.
This was
They
Bloodlines.
can go all the way to Aria.
Wasn't it? Because there's a bit.
It has the villain of Bloodlines.
Right, they
but
took
Yeah,
that.
so
it
they
doesn't
can't
have-
really.
It doesn't have John Morris or the Lacards.
Well, now they need a bad guy. Oops. I guess we shouldn't have.
Well, that's what the
just-
fucking satanic shade would be, Dan.
It's so
Like, I presume it would possess Maria's mom, and then she would be the villain of that.
It's really good that they just took the villain from that, so that way they could have something for Richter, the God's most loved Belmont, to fight. And now it's like, okay, now for the other guys, shit.
Yeah, I think that might be where they go if they do a third season of Nocturne specifically. Like, they'll just introduce the Morrises and the Lacards and do Bloodlines.
We'll jump to Portrait before they do that, yeah, because it already has a duo of cast main character thing going on there. That's one boy, one girl.
Mm-hmm.
We already have all this rich history we can just throw into a paper shredder, paper mache onto a fucking episode and go, yo, we wrote a thing. And it's like, yeah, Wind was really interesting. Thank you.
World War II.
What are you doing here? Studio applause.
That game does have like a villain that isn't Dracula they could use, even if he's really lame and not the main villain because of that.
You know what's really lame is getting this whole segment, becoming a cat person, and going, nah, I don't want to do that for 6 more episodes.
Yeah, it really does feel like they got told, like, well, we're gonna need another season, so don't end it.
Yeah, I don't.
Like,
None of this
it really feels like these feel so disconnected. There is no way they were conceived of at the same time. That's how it feels to me.
Just throwing this in at the last second because these two things are things I wanted to be in this podcast. There's nothing bigger about them. One, apparently the Maxim one is the golden ring with the blue jewel. So that would have been Maxim's.
Okay. Wait, no, the one that's in the show is silver.
Is it silver?
Yeah, it's silver.
Okay, I just remember
Yeah,
the
it's
blue
silver.
jewel.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it doesn't match either of them. More importantly, though, the thing I wanted to make sure was in this, otherwise it's just going to be lost in a random Friday live stream. I think it's enormously funny that Annette goes into the spiritual world and is just like, ancestors, yes, this power, great. We need to get to this Egyptian god. Oh, Egyptian gods? That's not in this wing. You need to take this boat and go over there to the other religion. Like, I like this idea because now, audience, this may not be amusing to you unless replace the mythology here with Christianity. Imagine you went to see the Christian god and he's like, oh yeah, we're the Egyptian gods are that way, right? A boat over there. It's like Jesus Christ is telling them to do this. That's hilarious.
I mean, depending on what
Yeah.
era you're talking about, that's kind of how it works.
That's great. No, this is fucking fantastic.
I do think it's kind of weird that in the first series, there's a clear line of like, yeah, like the only reason these night creatures that Dracula has can get into this church is because the church in this country is evil. Like, they're all corrupt and completely worthless.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone who doesn't suck shit blesses water, it's useful against these monsters. So it's so weird that we've there's no element of Christianity to any of this at all in the season about French Catholics. Like, the element of, like, here's all the different vampire mythos and how these different religions deal with vampires, but then vampires are the only supernatural monsters. Like Bob said, it's like, it feels so weird and disconnected because of that.
Yeah. They should have had a thing.
You should have.
There we go. That's got it.
I do think Chris is right. They're not going to want to give up on these characters they already have. So they're going to try to spin up another season if they get funded for one.
Which is a real big if because
Right.
again,
Yeah,
I
last
didn't
time they
see
got it in
anyone
1
talk
week.
about this.
Right. Yeah. No, nobody talked
Yeah,
about this.
it kind of had a really bad release window when the entire world was on fire.
Yeah.
And it's also the weakest season they've ever fucking made.
Right. And they put it as far away from, it feels like as far away from October as they could have. Like, even if it's not physically that far, it's like, no, nobody's thinking about Halloween stuff now. It's January. What are you doing?
Yeah. I don't know if we're getting another season. If I were betting,
this did better than season 1, so I'm sure they're going to continue it somehow.
how do we know that?
In terms
What
of
did
Netflix,
they,
Netflix said more people watched it than season 1.
okay.
Hopefully that means something. You never know with Netflix.
No, you really don't know with them. And man, again, I just look at this now and I'm like, I feel like I didn't need Nocturne. We could have just had that original series, it do its run, and that would have been fine.
I feel like if Nocturne were going to be a thing, it should have been something wildly different from that first series. Completely different, like, takes on everything.
I mean, Rondo of Blood is stylistically different from the games that preceded it.
Exactly. Like, it should have been something that is anime. Like, if that's what you wanted to do, if you wanted to make this clean break, you should have done that.
But that means everything would have to change. All the writing, all the character design.
And it should have, if you wanted to do this.
It would have been interesting.
At the end of the day, Nocturne Season 1 gave us Richter Mommy, so I will hear no slander against it.
Oh my God. God damn it. I thought we were safe from aggro talking about, quote, Richter Mommy.
It's been so long and they didn't even do a flashback to the shoulder. I don't even remember her anymore.
Right?
I just noticed she was there and died.
Well, if they had done a flashback to her, they might have had to address that they completely fucking dropped that entire plot line.
Yeah. That'd suck, right?
I really thought they were. I thought it. You can go back to the spoiler cast for the first season where I'm talking about, like, yeah, I guess Richter and, like, Olrox will come to some kind of, like, understanding, or at least, like, a grudging non-aggression pact because Olrox helped them, but then that kind of just doesn't happen and they barely bring it up.
Yep. They don't even really talk.
And Olrox kind of doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just like most characters just kind of do nothing other than action scenes against random things.
We good?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. This is the part where we do our summary reviews as though we haven't said enough, and then give it a score, 1 to 10. We're going to start with Dr. Aggro.
Castlevania Nocturne Season 2 was perfunctory. It was a wet fart to close out. I hope it never comes back. 3.
Bob.
Yeah, this is probably the worst season. It was really bad. Like, basically nothing redeeming. 3.
Chris Wolfhard.
There are so many things. To quote Aggro, if you wrote down everything in this season and put it on a Wikipedia page, I would go, wow, this must be a great show. But it feels like they fumbled the execution of every single thing, and so many characters just feel more interesting than what we're looking at and have backstories that are more interesting than what this was about. 4.
Legitimately, all you need to know is that if at any point you think I chose this number as a sort of punitive bit, I did not. You could ask Bob how miserable I was fucking watching this. This is a 1. I hated this. Literally nothing would have been better. They fucked up every single fucking aspect of it. Oh, it doesn't, it looks good. I don't care that it looks good because I'm watching a fight. That sucks. Because it's a fight in service of nothing. I need something. I thought
you were the most
doing
positive about the last season.
I know.
4 of us.
What if Putty showed up every episode?
It feels worse than that even.
It does.
I got kind of fucking indignant about how positive you were on the other last season, and now you hate this one the most. That's funny.
It is. I suppose cosmically, yes. That first episode really was the, oh no, every worst possible outcome is what this whole season is. We brought Drolta back. We're going to have to go to the other end of the country to have the big fight. There are MacGuffins, and we need to get them. No one will have an arc. Wait, maybe never mind. This really does rank up there with some of the least happy I've ever been watching a thing for the show, which is for GigaBoots, because every other season's better. Man, Every single time I come out of reviewing one of these seasons, there are a number of things I can say that are positive. There are a number of things I could say that could have been worse. I can't do either this time. They nailed it. They nailed being the worst thing to me. I genuinely don't think I'm ever watching any more of the show if it happens.
Yeah, there's no way I'm watching a Nocturne season 3. Like if it's a whole new series again, and they move to something else, and that thing with Satan was just a setup for that will be relevant 50 to 100 years from now.
Right.
Then I might come back, but I'm not coming back to see here's Maria and Alucard and Juice running around Paris. Like I don't care. You're going to come up with 4 more arcs for each of them that are the same arcs from the first 2 seasons? I don't care.
There's so much they could have done with Tara, Maria's mom.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, they kind of just do nothing.
They just forgot.
Yeah. Well, she's a character in the show. That's to be said of basically all of them.
I know, and it's so upsetting. You can say it for virtually every single character in this. It's like they had the thing, it's like the setting and the time period. As Agro was talking about, it's like you chose correctly broadly on what tools to set about with, and then you did jackal shit with it. Okay, I'm done. I'm done talking about this. I'll have you know, even still, despite this, I do not regret the Castlevania Netflix shirt I am wearing right now. It's a good Castlevania shirt. And this series is good because, broadly, it made Castlevania relevant to more people. And I love Castlevania. So I'm going to get to walk away from this and unlike the Pentaverate, not have scars for the rest of my life. I'm glad Netflix doesn't shoot us with shit like Pentaverate anymore.
Don't taunt them. They'll do it.
I'm sure there's shit on there that's as bad or worse. We just don't know about it and we'll never think about it.
But here's the thing. I can't think of anything that's like, we gave it pseudo a movie budget, right? And a comedian's the main head. Because, of course, there's like blockbuster schlock all over it. We could watch any of that. There's so much of that. But the thing that makes Pentaverate, well, I guess you'll just have to listen to the Spoilercast to find out. This month's executive producers for GigaBoots are Spaceman Spiff, Red Blaze 27, Cooper Tank, BN12, Rado, and Veer Farm. Thank you very much to our executive producers, and also these guys. If you want to become an executive producer or normal patron, you can head on over to patreon.com/gigaboots today.